Wait.
You're listening to the Blitz, college fantasy football show with the Scholar and Emil.
And yes, it is the Blitz, week 11 of the college fantasy football season. And we're here with John, the Scholar Laub, and Emil Kadlec, the old man of fantasy. How's it going, John?
It's going well, other than the 15 games that have been canceled. I'm doing great, but it has been the craziest 48 hours. So that is 30 off the board. I've been canceled between now and kickoff tomorrow.
Wow, I didn't know it was that many. I haven't been paying attention. So keep our fingers crossed here in the next 12 hours or so. All right, let's go to the first view graph.
Yes.
You see it?
Hey, Emil, we always begin with the marvelous matchups for college fantasy football diehards. And what we're looking at today are we need some sleepers. And if you, like me, you've had teams that have been devastated. I've actually had to replace 2 quarterbacks on some teams because of so many cancellations and running backs. Alabama's out. Huge players out this week. So I always start at the top of the board, and today we're going to give you some sleepers in these games. First one, we have Miami at West Virginia. We have an over-under of 68, highest on the slate, and the Hokies are 2.5-point favorites. So this is going to be a very close game with each team projected to score at least 4 touchdowns. So on the Miami side, if you need a wide receiver, I'm going to recommend Mike Hartley. The receiver has been smoking hot the last 2 weeks. He has games of 10 receptions, 170 yards, and a touchdown. Last week he had 8 receptions, 153 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. For the season, 35 receptions, 475 yards, and 4 touchdowns. If you need a wide receiver, go out there and grab Mike Hartley of the Miami Hurricanes. On the Virginia Tech side, and lots of us, because in college fantasy football, most of us start between 4 and 5 wide receivers a week. Go get Hokies wide receiver Trey Turner. He's been very good the last 3 games. He's totaled 15 receptions for 222 yards and a touchdown. Hokies wide receiver Trey Turner. Now, one of the key players that we have to watch, Virginia Tech running back Khalil Herbert is questionable. I have him on the bench in 2 of my leagues right now. I don't know if he's going to play. My guess at this point is he's going to be out. So I have replacements, but you need to make sure that Khalil Herbert is out of your lineup. We're going to watch that closely. And both quarterbacks, Derek King and Hendon Hooker, are stars. Put them into your lineups, folks. The next biggest game on the slate, also with the 68 over-under. However, you'll notice that the Trojans are huge favorites on the road. 14.5-point favorites on the road. Last week, what a tremendous game USC had, coming back against Arizona State. Now, this week, Arizona has not played. Their game last week was canceled. So the Trojans have a game under their belt while Arizona does not. So we'll see how this game plays out. But if you're looking for a wide receiver on the Trojan side, Amon-Ra St. Brown is rostered in almost all leagues. He's a star. But Drake London, he is a nightmare, Emil. He's a 6'5", 220-pound slot receiver.
Whoa.
He is a mismatch in almost every game he plays. The Trojans with Graham Harrell play that wide-open air raid with a stupendous quarterback. And we had looked at Keaton Slovis last week in our Under the Microscope. But Drake London is absolutely a nightmare for defensive coordinators. They have two stars on the outside with Tyler Vaughn and with Amon-Ra St. Brown. But London plays the slot. And in their air raid, they look for matchups. There are not many college teams that can match up with the 6'5" slot receiver who runs good routes and he physically dominates you with this size. Go out there last week against Arizona State. London had 8 catches for 125 yards and a touchdown. Now, Arizona has a lot of turnover this year. We're not exactly sure how the rotation is going to work out, but I'm going to talk about their young quarterback a little later in the show. So I like him. Next one, ACC, Louisville versus Virginia. We know how good the triplets are for the Louisville Cardinals. We've talked about them on the show. Mikhail Cunningham, Javian Hawkins, and Tutu Atwell. They are must-start. But if you're looking for someone on the Louisville Cardinals who can help you, let me recommend the tight end Marshawn Ford. He has 5 touchdowns in 7 games. And in the last two games, Marshawn Ford has 6 receptions for 87 yards and a touchdown. He's 6'2", 240 pounds. He's a move tight end with good pass-catching ability. And the tight end position in college fantasy football, always tough. I'll take a starting tight end with an over-under of 65.5 and a very good quarterback any day of the week. On the Virginia side, sophomore quarterback Brennan Armstrong has been very good all year. You should be able to go up and pick him up off the waiver wire. He's started 4 games. He's been a little bit injured, but he's healthy now for this game. So I'm real excited to see Brennan Armstrong because he's only rostered as of this afternoon on 31% of teams. You need a quarterback. Go right now. Don't wait any longer. Go grab Brennan Armstrong. He's a home quarterback, dual threat in a game with 66.5 over-under, and the Cavaliers are favored. Armstrong has 985 yards passing and 10 touchdowns in 4 starts. He also has 287 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. You need a quarterback this week. Go get Brennan Armstrong of the Virginia Cavaliers. We'll stay in the ACC. Another big game. Wake Forest at North Carolina. I don't love the Wake Forest quarterback, Sam Hartman. They're going to get their wide receivers. They're going to get them involved. But I like this running back, Kenneth Walker. He's kind of taken over the role. They still rotate. But if you need to pick up someone, go pick up Kenneth Walker. 528 yards rushing, averages 5 yards per carry. But more important, he has 11 touchdowns, my friend. 11 touchdowns. So go pick up Kenneth Walker. North Carolina. We know about this quarterback, Sam Howell. We put him under the microscope earlier in the year. He's been smoking hot. We know these North Carolina wide receivers. We've talked about them. Daz Newsome, Damani Brown. They're starters you could put in every week. North Carolina has 2 great running backs. Both of them are most likely owned. We're going to talk about one next. But if you do need a running back, maybe one of those 2, Michael Carter or Javonte Williams, are available. If they are, go get either one. Nice ACC game, 67 points over under. Now, we had other games, but some of them were canceled. The next highest game left on the slate is SMU at Tulsa. Over under 64.5 here, and I like this one. It's going to be a close game. 2.5 point spread with Tulsa as the favored home team here. You need a running back on the SMU side, and they rotate their running backs. Ulysses Bentley is the starter. He plays most of the downs. But lately, Tyler Levine has been getting some action for the Mustangs. I had to pick him up on one team where we played 2 running backs and 3 flex positions. So I like to go with 4 running backs, and I had Najee Harris. He's gone. Jahmyr Gibbs, Georgia Tech, he's gone. So I dipped into the waiver wire. I got Tyler Levine. In the last 2 games, he doesn't have a lot of touches, but he's incredibly explosive and efficient with the limited touches. They also like him near the goal line. In the last 2 games, he has 13 carries for 124 yards and 3 touchdowns. If he gets between 40 and 45% of the snaps, I like him as a flex running back, Tyler Levine for the SMU Mustangs. You need another quarterback. You could do worse than Zach Smith of the Tulsa. He's up and down. He can be a pain when you watch him play. He makes some mistakes. But so far, he has 924 yards passing and 7 touchdowns. He's in a good spot here. He's a home favorite, and the Mustangs do not have a very good defense. So if you're desperate at quarterback, I'll take Zach Smith of the Tulsa Hurricanes. And now they have a running back. They've been a nightmare all year. They've been rotating their running backs. But the last 2 weeks, T.K. Wilkerson has earned the majority of the carries and the touches in the backfield. He has 40 carries for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. If you're desperate at running back, T.K. Wilkerson of Tulsa. That is my marvelous matchups this week. Go to the waiver wire, get those starting lineups in. But those are the highest scoring matchups on the board, Emil.
Definitely a waiver wire week with all those games being canceled.
Oh, my God. I've spent hours on the waiver wire.
All fingers crossed that nothing else will change. All right, off to the next view graph.
Under the microscope, we've done this. Is actually, Emil, I looked at it. This is our 11th episode of the year. Another quarterback who's quickly moving up the draft boards. Now, I have a 3rd/2nd round grade. Some people are more bullish on Kyle Trask than I am. Now, I like him. I think there's nothing wrong with the 2nd round grade of the NFL. Some people are much more bullish on him than I am. I'm going to watch this game tomorrow against Arkansas very closely. I've already seen 2 games, and I've taken some notes, and I watched them last year. Now, he's quickly moving up boards, and what's interesting about Trask, he's a little bit of a late bloomer. He goes to Florida and doesn't start right away. He actually was on the bench last year to Felipe Franks. Now, the interesting part, Felipe Franks now quarterbacks Arkansas. So he's going to play his former teammate who he used to back up. But Felipe Franks got hurt early in the season last year, and Kyle Trask came off the bench. And Emil, he was good last year. He's 6'5", 240 pounds. Last year, he had 25 touchdowns with only 7 interceptions. He did have 4 rush touchdowns, but I would not say that Kyle Trask is a mobile quarterback who's going to gain a lot of yards with his legs. He's efficient, he's smart in the pocket, and he can avoid pass rushers, and he was sneaky around the goal line. But I would not put him in the Justin Herbert class of being able to gain yards with his legs. And he's not in like the Deshaun Watson or Patrick Mahomes. But he's average. 100 yards last year and completed 66.9% of his passes. Very efficient junior season. Now, this year, the Florida Gators are explosive as all heck on offense. They're amazing. And it's because of Trask. He's actually had 22 touchdowns, gained more yards, 70 yards rushing this year. Last year, he only had 8. He's been smarter with his ability to gain yards. He has a big arm, and he's sturdy and strong in the pocket. 2 games this year, he's thrown for over 400 yards. He's also, in every game, Emil, he's thrown at least 4 touchdown passes, including he had 6 against Mississippi, the opening game of the year. So he's been unbelievable. Quickly moving up draft boards, I think I believe it's a prime time game. It's 7 or 7:30 kickoff. Under the microscope, you've got to watch right now. I have them outside of the top 4. We have Trevor Lawrence. We have Trey Lance. We have Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. Those are the top 4 in my book, not necessarily that order. I'm not going to give you my order right now, how I have them ranked. But those are my top 4 prospects. Kyle Trask, we still have the combine. Lots of things can change this. But right now, you need to watch Kyle Trask. He's a very interesting prospect. And we know how much quarterbacks are in demand at the NFL level. So Trask is one of those players. You never know Trask there. Very interesting player. Check him out tomorrow night, everyone. To me, the running back who has risen quicker than anyone this season is Javonte Williams. 5'10", 220. Emil, he almost has the perfect running back body. Like 5'10", compact. He's strong. He's very, very good. But the numbers Emil have been silly. Last year he had 933 yards and 5 touchdowns. But he was in a timeshare with his teammate Michael Carter. So it was kind of a little bit baffling. You're watching it, and North Carolina had an explosive offense. They have Sam Howell, the quarterback, and Javonte Williams is rotating in the backfield. But you definitely like the size and the power. He also had 17 receptions for 176 yards. Excuse me. One of the things that I like about Javonte Williams, he's a dual threat running back. He's a 3-down back, Emil. This year, he's been unbelievable. North Carolina has transitioned 767 yards rushing. But Emil, he's got 15 touchdowns in 7 games rushing. Here's what's more impressive. 15 receptions, 234 yards, and 3 touchdowns receiving. Javonte Williams right now has a second-round grade in my book. He's quickly moved up the chart. He's just been amazing. Now, if he finishes the season off strong and he goes to the position as D-Ballard, look at Nick Chubb was a second-round pick. Alvin Kamara was a third-round pick. Yeah. Running backs fall. But this young man could clearly be he has the possibility of a first-round grade at the end of the process. He's probably going to be a second or third round in the NFL. He's an interesting running back. Emil, he has, in the last 6 games, he has 500 yards rushing. And what I like about him, his receptions are consistent. 2, 3, 3, 0, but then 4. You've got to watch him, people. North Carolina versus Wake Forest tomorrow. Javonte Williams is a powerful running back who punishes people. When he gets into space, he is a nightmare. He also is a very smooth pass catcher. And when you get him out of the flat, you get the ball in his hands, he is dangerous. You see NFL-level talent at that position, my friend. And that is under the microscope tomorrow.
Beautiful. Off to the next slide.
If you need sleepers like me, you're going to go to the waiver wire. And believe it or not, I picked up every one of these 5 sleepers within the last 48 hours. The first one, Tyler Sow of Oregon. They're playing Washington State. Normally, I might not want a redshirt freshman, actually a redshirt sophomore, making his second start on the road. But Emil, there are, as I mentioned, 15 games have been canceled. You've got to take what's available on the waiver wire. This young man is in an over-under of 57, and Oregon is huge favorites, 10.5 points. Why do I like him? He gained 85 yards rushing last week, and he threw for 227 yards and totaled 2 touchdowns, one on the ground and one in the air. He's playing Washington State. They play that run-and-shoot offense. They're going to put points up on the board, even against this Ducks defense. I think this is a very interesting spot here. You need a quarterback. I'll go with the dual-threat running back every day of the week. Tyler Show of the Oregon Ducks. Go get him off your waiver wire. Greg Bell, San Diego State. I was so happy to acquire him on one team. I desperately needed running backs. Love the game script. The Aztecs are 11-point favorites at home against Hawaii. Hawaii cannot stop the run. They're defensively challenged, the Rainbows, especially on the road. The Rainbows surrender 226 yards rushing a game and give up nearly 28 points per game. Greg Bell, he was a JUCO transfer who landed at Nebraska, left Nebraska after 3 games. For whatever reasons, the culture wasn't right. He ended up at San Diego State. In 3 games this year, he is averaging 125 yards rushing. He has 377 yards total, and he scored 4 times. He also has 8 receptions for 63 yards. Greg Bell, San Diego State, I like him a lot. I usually don't recommend Rutgers players, but Isaiah Pacheco is in a nice spot to succeed here. Over the last 2 years, his realm of outcomes are unbelievable. He can get 15 yards rushing or 130 yards rushing. Wow. It is almost always dependent on game script. What happens when Rutgers get buried, and they get buried by Ohio State like they did last week, when they just get clobbered, Isaiah Pacheco is out of the game script. He doesn't produce points. But right here, the Rutgers are home favorites, 6.5 against the Illini. The Illini are not very good. If you need a running back, Isaiah Pacheco's in a good spot. I think he gets 90 yards rushing. He probably gets 3 to 4 receptions, and he should score a touchdown in this game. Isaiah Pacheco of Rutgers is a running back I like. At wide receiver, and in college fantasy football, we always need wide receivers. One that I noticed that I could not believe that has been out there is Deuce Watts of Tulane. He has just been fantastic the last 3 weeks. They have a young quarterback, Matt Pratt, who we've talked about as a sleeper on here. Matt Pratt has been able to be productive in the passing game. And Deuce Watts has gone 3 straight games scoring over 20 fantasy points in PPR leagues. Go acquire Deuce Watts, Tulane versus Army. The only challenge here, and I get it, Army likes to grind the clock and limit possession. But Tulane can score quickly. So I know there's risk here that Army could win this game and they slow the clock down with that triple option offense, and maybe Tulane only gets 6 or 7 possessions. But I think Tulane can do enough, and they should get 8 or 9, because I think their defense can keep them in this game here. I'm going to take Deuce Watts of Tulane against Army. And then a senior who's come on late in his career here, Emeka Emezi, North Carolina State. We've been watching Jacoby Myers play really well for the Pats. Emeka Emezi, Jacoby Myers played at North Carolina State. They have had underrated offenses in college fantasy football. Remember, Ryan Finley, the quarterback, started a few games for the Cincinnati Bengals last year. Emeka Emezi here is an underdog against Florida State. The over-under is 659 points. And I like this because North Carolina State is a favorite. I like Emeka Emezi in this game a lot. The Seminoles are not very good on defense. They surrender 271 yards a game to opposing quarterbacks, and they gave up 36 points a game to the other team. I like the Wolfpack here. I like their passing game. Emeka Amizi if you need a wide receiver. Those are my sleepers.
Well, you got to like a guy with 5 E's and 7 total vowels in his name. That's a pretty good one. Okay, off to the next slide.
It took me a while to learn how to pronounce that.
I wasn't going to try.
All right. We always like to give you a fantastic four for our DFS slate tomorrow afternoon. Originally, this was supposed to be 14 games, my friend. 3 games have been canceled on this slate. So make sure you don't put in any players. I forgot. Ohio State, Maryland canceled. Georgia, Missouri canceled. Auburn, Mississippi State canceled. So get all those players out. So I put together a nice, fantastic four that you can build around your lineup. I had mentioned the USC-Arizona game. Arizona's a home underdog. USC is going to score points. What does that tell me? Arizona is going to have to throw the football a ton in the second half to try to get this game close or win it. They have a young quarterback, Grant Cannell. But Grant Cannell is a big quarterback with a big arm. He's got a little bit of experience. We have not seen a lot of him, but he was a highly recruited prospect. He's playing catch up here at home. If this was at USC, I might not want to start the young kid immediately. But since this is a home game, I like Grant Cannell, and we need salary-saving players here because there's a lot of good players on this slate. So I'm going to go down and save on one of my 2 quarterbacks. I'm going to save with Grant Cannell. Now at the running back position, huge players here. The aforementioned Javonte Williams, Kyren Williams of Notre Dame. If Herbert plays, but he's questionable. Brandon Knox of Marshall, and Levi Brown is questionable of West Virginia. I want to stay in the top pool. Javian Hawkins is the last player to me in the top lane. In the last 2 games, Hawkins has scored 37-40 DraftKings points. That Cardinals offense is smoking. They're going to score points against Virginia, and Hawkins is the engine. He's a pass catcher, he's their goal line, and he's their home run hitter. I like Javian Hawkins of Louisville. Take him. I mentioned USC. I had mentioned Hal London earlier. He's only 5,800 here. Drake London is a nightmare for opposing defense. They take advantage of the mismatch. Drake London is going to be the most likely receiver to be in the mismatch at 6'5" in the slot. He's only 5,800. I like Drake London tomorrow at Arizona, so I get 2 pieces of wide receiver. I also Ty Freifogel of Indiana. He's only 4,700, my friend. He's averaging 16.8 DraftKings points in the last 2. That's nice. And in the last 2, he scored 30 and 15. Why I like him is they definitely funnel their passing game to only 2 receivers. They're going to funnel that game to Whip Filliar and Ty Fogel. The difference in price is pretty big. Filliar is 6,100. Ty Fogel is 4,700. I like their young quarterback, Michael Penix, and I like Filliard here against Michigan State. 4,700. There's my fantastic four for the day slate.
All righty, off to the next slate.
All right,
you are, John.
For the night slate, there was originally 6 games. Now there was originally 7 games. Now there's only 6. At quarterback, we have Kyle Trask. I don't have to explain. You know how much I like him. We went over him on Under the Microscope. There were really two quarterbacks I needed to choose from here. Matt Carroll of Mississippi or Kyle Trask of Florida. Kyle Trask is $1,100 savings with a similar ceiling. Trask actually averages more points than Carroll. Trask averages 35.1. Carroll averages 30. Kyle Trask here. I know a lot of people are going to go with Matt Carroll, and I get it, but I'm going to go with Trask here. He's my quarterback in the night slate. Now, part of the reason why I didn't want to go with Carroll, I want his running back, his teammate, Jerron Ely. That game has a huge over-under also. Mississippi's home. They're hosting South Carolina. The over-under is 5,900. I'm sorry. The salary is 5,900. He scores 19 points a game. I was kind of shocked by this, and it must be the matchup. But his price in the last 3 weeks have been 6,600, 6,800, and 6,700. We're getting a discount of 5,900. I know it's because of the matchup, but I still like the starting running back on an explosive offense for 5,900 with scoring an average of 19 DraftKings points. I'm going to take him there. At wide receiver, I need to save some salary here. I love the Washington State Cougars, their run and shoot offense. They start 4 receivers every week. They rotate 7. But I'm going to go here with the starter who's only $4,000. Last week he had 7.8 points. But touchdowns are fickle. If he scores a touchdown last week, that will put him at 13.8. Jameer Calvin, I'll take the discount on a starting wide receiver in the run and shoot for the Cougars. And I hope that he can get into the end zone. So I like Jameer Calvin of the Washington State Cougars. And Treylon Burks in that game against Florida. I know the Gators are going to put up points. Arkansas is going to be playing from behind in the second half. I want a piece of this action. Treylon Burks is the star of the Arizona Razorbacks. He's averaging 24 points a game on DraftKings. In the last 3 games, he scored 21, 34, and 38 DraftKings points. The Razorbacks are going to have to play from behind. I like Treylon Burks, the wide receiver of Arkansas, everyone. That's my Fantastic Four for the evening slate.
Wonderful. Love them when they have to play behind and they can score points.
Yes.
All right, here comes the next view graph for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, viewers, we have so many great live stream shows on footballdiehards.com. It begins on Wednesdays with the DFS show with Jason Brady and Kyle Dvorak. Check that out on Wednesday nights, and it's also available on footballdiehards.com. You can click the link and watch the show now. Then there is Ask Me Anything Fantasy Football with Bob Harris on Saturdays. It's at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Great show with the Hall of Famer. Ask him any fantasy football question that you have. Then tomorrow night, Emil and I, we are back with you. 7 o'clock Eastern Time. The Line of Scrimmage, the DFS Cash Game Show. Check Emil and out tomorrow as we go through cash game lineups in our Fantastic Four and our sleepers. We also give you a contrarian DFS lineup for GPPs. Then there is Jen Ryan, and her and Emil give you Prop Till You Drop, NFL player prop bets for you every week. And then they conclude our weekly live streams. Jason and Emil are back Sunday morning with the Football Diehards DFS show at 10 a.m. Eastern, Emil? Is that when the show goes?
Exactly, yes.
There you go. We have 5 great shows every week for you for DFS NFL. Obviously, this is our college football show that we help you put together lineups.
Beautiful. And Jen will be on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Her schedule is bouncing around with her work because of COVID virus.
And ladies and gentlemen, remember, all these shows are on footballdiehards.com. If you don't get to watch them live, watch them at your convenience on footballdiehards.com and YouTube. Just type in Football Diehards on YouTube. Beautiful.
All right, we're out to the final slide of tonight.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I've been good the last 2 weeks. I've gone 5-1. And last week I went 3-0. I had a great week. And I'm feeling hot. I'm feeling good. I'm going to give you 4 picks this week. I really like this slate, and I got some great games for everyone to select from. But here are my scholars' 4 best bets. I love home underdogs. I'm going to take Purdue +3 against Northwestern. I'm just not taking Purdue because they're a home underdog. I love their passing game. I love their playmakers at wide receiver. They're going to be able to score against Northwestern. Take the Boilermakers getting a field goal at home against Northwestern. I've alluded to this game. I'm kind of shocked that I'm getting 10.5 points with the Washington State Cougars. They are at home with the Oregon Ducks. I'm getting the hook. I love 10.5 at home. This game could be 31-24, and I get even if the Cougars lose. The Ducks have not necessarily lived up to their billing in the last couple of years when they had Justin Herbert. I already mentioned they have a redshirt sophomore playing his first game. Now, I like him in this game, but I don't know if he's going to be good enough to cover 10.5 on the road. Washington State can score points in Nick Rolovich's wide-open run-and-shoot offense. I gave you a sleeper wide receiver I like in this matchup. The Cougars should be able to score points against the Ducks. I like Washington State at home against Oregon. Now, you know I love the American Athletic Conference, everyone. But 76 points. You're looking at basically 11 touchdowns. That means UFC is probably going to score their 6 touchdowns. The Knights side is not the problem. I don't know if Temple can score 4 or 5 touchdowns, Emil. I don't think they have it in them. Their star running back entered the transfer portal, Raymond Davis. He's gone.
Oh.
Their quarterback has missed the last 2 games with injury. He's come back. I just don't think Temple can put enough points on the board. I'm taking the under 76 Temple at UCF also. UCF has lost a lot of games in the fourth quarter this year, technically 2. They're trying to slow the game down in the second half. They're running the ball a little bit more, and they're being more efficient with the clock. They don't want to lose any more games in the fourth quarter. So they've slowed Temple down. So even if that eliminates 2 possessions, well, when you need 11 touchdowns, you take out 2 possessions. That's a lot. I don't think Vegas is caught up, or the betting community, with the little subtle transformation that the Knights have made on offense. I'm going under 76 in this game. And this is a classic letdown game. Last week I won big. Notre Dame against Clemson. What a great game. Forget about the referee, and I get it. People can complain. I love that game on Saturday night. I also love it because Notre Dame covered, and I made a little cash. But this is a classic letdown. Notre Dame travels to Boston College. Huge favorites. The Eagles are home underdogs. And historically, Boston College has been a big thorn in the Fighting Irish's side. I'm going to take the 13 points here against the Fighting Irish at home. And Emil, those are my 4 best bets this week.
Wait a minute, you're picking 4. Don't you usually just pick 3?
I am, but I'm giving you everyone a bonus. I feel so good about this week.
Well, that's great. You went
Plus,
3-0.
I couldn't. You know what happened? Well, you know what actually happens? I start with about 6 bets, and then I analyze them and break them down and choose 3. But you know what? I had other ones. I cut 2, and honestly, I like all 4 of these so much, I just couldn't take one off the board, my friend.
Just teasing you. Yeah, it was a good week last week.
That's why you got 4. No. Yeah, 5-1 the last 2, and I really like this week. So go out there and enjoy games, everyone. Always enjoy the games first.
Fantastic. Well, that's a great show. I love it. The great information. What a tough week for everybody. So I'm glad you're here to help everybody with a lot of free agency with all those college games being canceled. So it should be a really fun time on the free agency. We're having a bit of a delay on the camera.
Yes, and now is the time to start your NFL draft. Oh, I'm sorry.
What's that?
Why don't we just say goodbye? Why don't we just say goodbye?
Tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Eastern for the DFS show with John Laub and myself. Thank you, John.